And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to your RBLR Rays show. I'm Ben. With me is New Zach. Zach with an H. I think this is the last time the first and last time I'll call you New Zach because
New Zach.
I don't think there's a reason to call you New Zach anymore. Just regular Zach. How's it going?
I appreciate that. It's going very well. It's cold here in South Carolina, so I had to wear a jacket outside this morning. I would like it to start getting warm again, but in South Carolina, it'll get cold and warm so frequently that I feel like I never know when to put my jackets away.
Right. No, that makes sense. I mean, you're kind of like out of the heat from Florida, even though it's been pretty nice here lately. But yeah, I mean, you guys have a lot of fluctuation, I'm sure.
We do. It's not appreciated.
Yeah, well, something we do appreciate here. How about this segue? Some listener questions we got on Twitter. A bunch of replies here. Some of them will go, more in depth than others because I think some of these would make some great, topics for future episodes. But we can kind of run through these. I really didn't look at them much, so I'm not super prepared with numbers and stuff. But hey, I'll Google something if I need to.
And I will provide vocal clutter.
Yeah, perfect. So a couple here I've got. I'm just going to go in order that I see them here. From friend of the show here at Jake Larson. He said a couple things need to be covered. So he's, telling us how to do our jobs here. Thank you for that, Jake. So number one is Siri and Paredes need to get slight improvements in these areas to make huge gains. I don't know what areas you're referring to, but I don't know. Any thoughts on that? What areas he could be referring to? Because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, with Paredes, I don't know that there's a whole lot that I off the top of my head. I want him to improve. I think the things that you might say are negatives about him are kind of features, not a bug. Like the fact that he has a low batting average. Well, I don't think that's really what he's I don't think that's really what he's going for. So I mean, I guess you could say that. I mean, I think if he's going to be, you could maybe say he could work on his defense a little bit. But Siri definitely doesn't need to work on his defense. So I don't know. I think he could maybe work on his defense a little bit more because he's going to be. I hope to see him a lot more in the field and just generally on out there a lot this season. So I think his defense is fine. But if we want to look for an area for him to improve, sure, I guess he could work on his defense.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I was trying to think of the same thing. Where is if this is a Venn diagram here of Jose Siri and Isaac Paredes, what is in the middle little oval thing? I wish I knew.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the game we're supposed to guess what statistic they both need to improve on.
Right. And so his second one here is how slow is Josh Lowe's swing? I don't know. I don't have any bat speed data on him, but I mean, it seems like it got better maybe after he shortened it up a little bit after some time in AAA.
Yeah, I mean, I think the implication there is that he has not yet fared well against high speed, high speed fastballs, things like that. He's struggled a little bit against, high velocity. And again, like you're saying, I think he's there. It's if we're aware of something that is a hole in a player's swing, probably the pitching or the hitting coaches of the Rays are also aware that hey, this is something that's a problem. So I would be surprised if we don't see some adjustments to his swing to maybe help out. Like you're saying, shortening the swing a little bit. I think we'll probably see even more of that in this coming season.
Yeah, I mean, we're a couple podcast guys. I'm sure the Rays research and development people are all over that.
I'm sure they're aware.
Yeah. So the next one here is there going to be a coronation for Caminero? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what coronation means, so I'm going to Google it real quick unless you are able to tell me.
Well, coronation is the term in the olden days. It was when a new king or queen was crowned. It was the ceremony in which they received the crown, and then they all sat on the throne, and it was very dramatic. There's probably music playing. So I think what he's implying is there going to be a moment where he just gets brought up because he's been playing so well in the Australian League. Is that going to translate into him being brought up quicker in the minors? I don't know. Maybe is he gonna surge through and get up to AAA? And are we gonna see him in the big leagues at some point this next season? I don't know. It's a good question.
That is a good question. I don't know about next season because he's really only touched low A, I think is his highest level.
Yeah.
So I mean, Curtis Mead kind of used the Australian League a couple years ago as like a springboard for his surge through the minors. So Caminero did just hit his 14th home run today. Last time I checked, I know the game was still going on, so he might have hit a 15th, who knows? But he did hit another one today. So the sky's the limit. Like his bat is real. The exit velocities are real from the limited data that I've seen. Yeah, I'm excited. I don't think we'll see him next year. I don't really know where he would necessarily fit in like, an ideal world this year, but 2023, 2024, somewhere around there, I think we could see him.
Yeah, for sure.
And lastly, this was a really great question here. I liked of the most recent signings and relievers. So that whole group of minor league pitchers they signed invites to spring training. Who do you want to see the most?
I think are we including Kelly in that group of minor league pitchers that was signed? I'm interested in him. He's got a 4-pitch mix. I was looking at some of his stuff today, which he may ditch one of those pitches. But I'm always intrigued when a guy has 4 pitches, especially a reliever. I just interests me. And I think his curveball is pretty strong. I think he's got some interesting peripherals. I think I'm excited to see what they see in him and what they're wanting to do with his arsenal. I think I'm intrigued about that.
Yeah, definitely. I really like his stuff. Like you said, I like the arm slot. I think that's interesting. He was going to be the one that I said too, so I'll try to pick a different one here. I really am interested in Zach Birdie. He's a guy triple digits. Like he can bring it. Like he was a former like highly touted prospect. Command is almost non-existent, but we see the Rays very consistently like help guys find some like semblance of command, even if it's like an illusion where they just have like, I mean, if it works for them, like a universal target in the zone where it's like the catcher is going to set up here every time, throw whatever you're going to throw, and will power it into the zone, and that works for some guys. So we'll see. But I think a lot of these minor league signings with invites to spring training, I think it's mostly kind of just camp arms. It's depth, a bunch of lottery tickets. I don't necessarily see any of them coming in and taking a spot from like Adam Fairbanks, anybody like that in the bullpen, Clevenger. Just so many talented arms already, but you can never have too much pitching. So, some interesting high upside signings for sure.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of in a unique scenario where we don't really have a whole lot of bullpen spots available. Like, and that's a good problem to have. That I think there's some teams where some of these signings they're like looking really deep. You're like, hey, could this guy fill one of our slots? Because we kind of don't have anything. Like, I don't think as we look at like the guys who are slotted to be in the bullpen, I don't really, and maybe this is spoiling what we're talking about next, but I don't really feel badly about any of the. Like, I don't feel like negatively about any of the guys who are currently in our bullpen. So I think that's a good problem to have.
Right, absolutely. Like you said, we have, a full slate of pitchers that could realistically, we have so many bullpen guys already. And I feel like we don't normally have this situation as Rays fans. Like usually we've got like, half of a bullpen, 3/4, and then like, 3, maybe 4 surefire starting pitchers. But like, no, we've got like the pitching staff is pretty much set. We've got like maybe 1 or 2 battles on the position player side, but that's about it. Like, depending on any trades or anything like that might happen in the future. So yeah, I mean, I like where things are at. And that kind of leads into this next question here, where it's from @hotboy, but hot is spelled HAUGHT. He said, even with our lack of pressure applied this offseason so far, where do we realistically sit in terms of standings and overall power rankings for this season?
That's a really good question. That could definitely be a whole episode too. But I think we could talk about this for a long time. But short answer, I think we are in the top. We're definitely in the top 10. I don't know if we're not going to be ranked in the top 5 to start the season by like the outlets. But to be honest, I don't see I was thinking about this the other day. I am not moved by any of the teams in the American League except for the Astros, to be honest with you. I am not intimidated by any team in the American League. So if that gives you some idea, I'm really not. Nobody scares me in the American League except the Astros.
No, absolutely. As realistically, this roster top to bottom, assuming health, even across the league, if nobody gets injured the entire season, which obviously isn't going to happen for any team in baseball, the Rays are still like a top 5 team by the end of the year. Like we've got all the pitching, they've got enough offense so far. I mean, they could maybe add at the margins, but like if you've got a healthy Brandon Lau, healthy Wander Franco, the pitching staff, stays intact mostly with, a couple midseason call-ups for prospects, stuff like that. Like this is a playoff team, and the Rays have said every single season, just about like every time anybody interviews them, their goal is to make the playoffs because that's all you can really control. So they're going to make the playoffs and then see where we go from there. So yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be a top 5 team by the end of the season, but the media and all that stuff, like all the outlets, they're not going to respect the Rays until they actually like go out there and take the division. So we just have to hurry up and wait for that to happen.
Yeah, I fully expect when we get the like rankings, like when they rank the divisions, it's going to be Yankees, Blue Jays, Rays. I already know. I'm already like mentally prepared for that to be spewed across the airwaves. And I mean, I get it because, it's like they've made some splashy signings with Rodon to the Yankees. Blue Jays made some good signings. But I'm just really not like in division. I am really not impressed. The thing I'm most disappointed about this offseason is the Baltimore Orioles. I really thought the Orioles were going to do more this offseason because I felt like they were like getting to that next gear. And I was kind of like, are the Orioles going to make some moves and make some noise, go after some of these guys? But they just kind of didn't. And I was disappointed by that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, they were like really close to being a good team last year. Like they had a nice little run. But I mean, I think I remember their GM saying they were ahead of schedule or something like that. So I don't really think they're going to like, go for blood just yet. I think they're going to wait for their young guys to finish cooking. Like, Adley just had his like rookie season. Gunnar Henderson just got called up like towards the end of last year. So Grayson Rodriguez, he was injured, but he'll be up this year. DL Hall made his rookie debut. So they're coming. I think maybe like, 2023, 2024, they might really start to throw some money around, but I'm kind of happy if they're content with being like a sub 500 team, because this division is already pretty tough. I mean, I know we kind of talked about how, we think the Rays are one of the top teams in the league, and really only the Astros are that intimidating. But the Yankees are still a good team. The Blue Jays are still a good team. The Red Sox, I don't really know what they're doing, but they seem like they've got good players on their roster. So that might equate to some wins. Who knows? Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, my hot take is that the Orioles will finish ahead of the Red Sox in the AL East this year. Again, I don't know what the Red Sox are doing. You just said it. I have no idea what is going on over there. I'm like, is Chaim going to be? I think there's a real chance that Chaim Bloom, if they don't perform well this year, that Chaim Bloom is either going to be gone this year or next year, because the Red Sox are not a patient fan base, and if they have another bad season, the seat is going to get very hot for Chaim if they don't figure something out, because it's not looking good, especially with the Trevor Story injury is so weird. Like the way everything happened and how late it all happened, it's so weird. And I have weird vibes coming from the Red Sox. I don't have high hopes for them this season.
Right. Exactly. Me too. I don't really know what they're doing. So yeah, it should be interesting. I can't wait for the Rays to beat up on them a little bit. I still think, I don't think they're going to be like the worst team in the league, because, they're still the Tigers, the Athletics, the Royals are kind of in limbo, but they've got some good young talent. So who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll kind of just run through the last few of these questions, because I don't want to take away from our topic too much. But this one I thought was pretty interesting, from @MustDefeatTwin. Got some trivia question right earlier this week, so nice job there. He said, who will be the starting shortstop in 2027? If you just had to pick a name off the top of your head, who are you thinking?
Oh, I mean, I'm going to say Wander Franco. I'm a little bit higher on his ability at shortstop than I think some people are, as far as his like defensive ability. I think there's a chance he doesn't play there, but like, I don't know. I don't feel like you sign a guy for what we signed Wander for to go stick him at third base or DH. I don't know. He's not like people that say he's a liability at shortstop. Like, I don't know what you're watching, man. Like he makes some fantastic plays out there. I think he can. I think he'll be the shortstop at 2027.
Oh yeah, me too, for sure. I don't see him moving. I mean, if they do decide to move him to like third, Carson Williams maybe. Like he seems like the real deal. dark horse, maybe like Alika Williams, if he figures out how to hit the ball harder than 20 miles an hour. So
Right.
we'll see. Another one here from Funkonoki. He said, who out of all of our random utility guys can you see being the next Ben Zobrist? So someone who struggled, but then, ended up, breaking into the team and turning out pretty good.
I have not I've not fully given up on Taylor Walls yet as a player. I know he's kind of had some uninspiring offensive seasons, but the defense is still there on a very high level. And I think, he can, if he can just make any kind of improvement offensively, he has value on any major league team in the league, really. I think he has a chance to, if he can figure it out offensively, I think he has a chance to kind of have that breakthrough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's going to have the opportunity to do that because there is no other like MLB ready shortstop on the roster. Like the next closest I can think of is actually, I don't even think there's anybody in AAA that
Greg
could,
Jones.
I guess, but I mean, he hasn't even seen AAA. Maybe Vidal Brujan, but even he's not like
Not
that.
over Walls,
Yeah, I mean, it's Walls is going to be on the roster. He is the backup shortstop. He's the second guy in line there. He definitely was overexposed last year, but yeah, he's going to get every opportunity to prove himself. So yeah, I think Walls or maybe like I guess Brujan because he can play pretty much all over the place. He could be like a Zobrist type, but yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I'm not as I don't know. I'm not as high on Brujan. I just don't. I'm not sure where he slots in long term for the team, and I don't. It's like I keep waiting for the breakthrough with him, and maybe I'm being too harsh on him, especially because I'm not being harsh on Taylor Walls. But like I had higher expectations for him, I guess, and we just haven't seen it yet. And again, he's young; he could totally prove me wrong, and I hope he does. And I hope he comes out and has a fantastic season. But I'm just not as high on Brujan. I hope to be proven wrong, but I just haven't been impressed, and I kind of had higher expectations, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the contact rates are good. He does, he doesn't swing and miss too much. So the tools are kind of there. Like he's got some power, he's got the speed for sure. He's got the versatility. It might just take him a little while to put it all together. Maybe we'll see that this year, but I don't really see where he's going to get like the consistent playing time. It kind of seems like he needs to really establish himself. So he's really going to have to just maybe come out hot in spring training and kind of force his way into the lineup because I don't really see, I mean, maybe an injury or something, but even then, like, I feel like Paredes is kind of a pretty solid utility infielder who's going to get a ton of at bats. Yeah, I mean, this is a good problem to have, though. There's a lot of like talented depth. We just have to hope that talent kind of translates to production.
Yeah, and I think again we get into this problem of who's if Brujan is playing, who's not playing, who's not getting those at bats. Like, is he really taking at bats away from Yandy or Paredes? Like, so it's if Brujan is playing well enough to take at bats away from Paredes and Yandy, that's a good thing. But
Yeah.
it's probably not going to happen. But that would be barring injury. If Brujan is playing consistently in the major leagues next year, barring injury, that's a good thing because it means he's playing so well that they feel like he is worth the at bats over guys that I think are really valuable to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole like cluster of these like quadruple A players that are kind of in the organization that are like almost ready, but maybe not. They've had some moments though. So next up here, we'll do like a couple more. At Pharmacy Galore tweeted ETA of Evan Reifert and Colby White. I think White's going to be up this year. Like I don't see why not. Reifert maybe next year. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I expect to see, and I'm excited to see Colby White at some point this year. Reifert, I just don't feel. Again, I don't think there's no need. Like, there's no need to rush him up this year. There's at all. So I think give him another year to cook in the minors.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he had a great, season out in the Arizona Fall League, so good for him. But yeah, I mean, also there's like the depth thing where like they have so many other pitchers who are, capable major league guys that I don't think they
Mhm.
need to throw a rookie up there right away.
Right.
There's one question here, or kind of like a thing I want to table for maybe a topic later from at William Keith 16. So don't think we forgot about you. He wants to know like our thoughts on the ideal opening day lineup.
Mm,
Talking about like, does that mean Manzardo, Aranda, Mead could maybe be in
mm.
the corner spots or DH? I think that's a great
That's a really
topic,
good
but
question.
we could talk about that for like 45 minutes easily. So
Easily. Oh yeah, we'll get
yeah,
to that. That's a good question.
we absolutely. One that we won't talk about for 45 minutes though is from at Vibe Baby 17. He's hypothetically, what Rays player would you be most excited to find out is dating your mom? I got to think about that for a second.
I mean, I guess well, he's not playing for the team anymore, so that takes my answer.
Yeah.
I
I
feel
would have
like,
said like Corey Kluber because he seems like he's got like a very dad like
yeah.
demeanor to him.
I don't know, like Jason Adams seems pretty chill, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, because like the problem is, like all these players are like a lot of our lineup is like under 29 or 30. I'm like, that feels like I would give you weird vibes. So like, who's the oldest player on the Rays right now? That's like a decent question. Who's the oldest player? Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know who it is. I don't know who that is. That's a good question.
Yeah. Maybe like Yandy. I'm not sure.
Yandy. I don't know.
He's a patient guy. He would make a good dad, I think.
That's a good point. He's a patient guy.
I think Brad Mottola, I know he's not like on the team, but like every time I listen to him talk, he's just very much like go with the flow, like super cool guy, like hands off with his job in a good way. Like the way he does a lot of things that are like considered best practice in education.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I think Chad Mottola, even though he's not a player.
If we're including staff, I'm going to change my answer to Kyle Snyder. I think that he is like, I think that's like because he brings this like to me whenever he walks out to the mound, I just calm down a little bit because usually he's walking out there and I'm stressed out and then I'm like, oh
yeah,
Kyle's walking out there. I could just calm down. It's going to be okay. They're going to figure it out. So I think
our collective tall dad can. Yeah,
yes,
he's a good guy. And then a couple here that kind of touched on this cat mania thing on the Tampa Bay Rays subreddit from at Noah Chestnut. He wants to know what our takes on the hat stuff that's going around, all the pictures of hats, and then he also has some follow-up questions, but we could talk hats real quick.
Yeah.
Is this your favorite hat that you got on right now?
This is my favorite hat. It's the baby blue Devil Ray hat. I don't know if they still sell it. I saw it a couple years ago. It was like a new release or like a limited release a couple years ago, and I immediately bought it. It is my favorite hat. I love the baby blue. I love baby blue looks, and I love the Devil Ray. So this is like my ideal hat for me.
Nice. I've got like a dark blue hat with like a similar logo on it right now. But my first Rays hat, I don't have it anymore. It was like this black and white, like fitted hat. I got it from like the Hat Shack at Countryside Mall in like, I want to say like 2010. It was pretty cool. It was like my first like Facebook picture profile thing. And then some guy, his name was Sarath Sivanadan. I remember him very clearly. He was like some 30-year-old guy who like added me on Facebook who was also like a Rays fan. And he was being like really creepy. But Sarath, if you're listening, first of all, thank you for listening. But also you shouldn't talk to kids on the internet. So, but long story short, I did have a good Rays hat back in the day. I don't know where it's at right now.
I think it's some good advice from Ben Whitelaw on just general practice. Let's just, yeah.
Oh yeah. He should not have been like talking to kids on. I mean, I guess I was like 12, 13. I'm like, hey, this guy likes the Rays too. Cool. But I don't think those were his only intentions, but it's fine.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
It's okay. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, anyways, last thing here from Noah Chestnut, then we can kind of jump into our topic is it's talking about because everyone is reacting or overreacting to the lack of new bats. He wants to know about any trade ideas or possible moves for a final bat or a left-handed bat to add heading into the season. Which we've talked about this a lot before, I guess, but I mean it's always going to be a topic until the Rays maybe add someone.
Well, here's my thing. When people always ask like, "Oh, let's do a trade." Well, who are you giving up? Like, in order to get an upgrade of significant amount, especially a bat, a left hand, like good left. There's a reason good left-handed bats are in high demand because they don't grow on trees. So, like, if you get one of those, what you have to give up is probably not going to make you happy. Are you ready to lose Taj Bradley and Curtis Mead and somebody like a major league person? Like, are you really? I just don't think it's. I don't think we need the upgrade so badly that I'm willing to part with any of the major pieces we would have to part with to get that bat. So, I mean, this is kind of a non-answer, but like, I just really don't. I don't feel the need. Like, if somebody gets, if we have a major injury and we really need that upgrade to like fill that hole in the lineup because we feel like we could contend with that next step. I mean, maybe, but like right now, I'm not really ready to give up any of what we'd have to give up to get that next level bat, I guess.
No, absolutely. I feel the same way. Like I think we kind of talked about it before the show, but like a lot of fans I think are in this mode where it's like Brujan and Walls or Brujan and Lowe for Vinny Pasquantino. Like that's not
right.
You have to give up Taj Bradley or Curtis Mead or Kyle Manzardo if you want to get Pasquantino, or if you want to get like any good left-handed bat. Like
and it's
you got to give up a lot.
And it's probably not just it's probably and. It's probably and,
right.
Kyle Manzardo and Curtis Mead and Taj Bradley. And like that's kind of a non-starter for me right now. Like I don't think we are like, if we were a team that I felt like we were like one really good player away from contention, like I could see that. But like I think the one good player we were away from contention of last year was Brandon Lau. And he's here now. So like I don't think there's really a need to upgrade.
Right. No, I feel the exact same way. I mean, I still think we're going to see a bat added at the margins because we have all this pitching depth and like quadruple A players that could come in and fill a role for a short time. We don't necessarily, well, we might not have that with the bats. I don't want to say we don't because we don't really know where all these prospects from Durham are going to be at this year. But like, we kind of have like Luke Raley, who came in and he was good for like 2 weeks and they sent him down and that was fine. And then that's kind of all we needed to bridge like a short gap. So maybe we sign like a guy and invite him to spring training, but I don't think we're going to have like the big move that everybody says we need. So yeah, I mean, unless they change philosophies overnight, like that's just not how the Rays operate. And that's never really how they've operated. So yeah,
I think the only thing that would maybe like change that is if some other American League teams start really overperforming expectations to where the bar of quality of the other teams is raised to such a level that you like almost need to match. Like if everybody on the Blue Jays plays completely to the top end of their expectations and everybody in the Yankees plays to the top end of their expectations and we're really in an arms race, like I could see in that scenario, like, okay, maybe now we need to start thinking about making a move. But like, other than like, and I don't expect that to happen, but if that does happen, like, okay, maybe then you can make the argument, but I don't really expect that to happen. So I don't know.
Yeah. I totally agree. So yeah, but that's pretty much it for all these questions. I know someone tweeted at us like they don't have a mom or something like that, but that's not really a question.
I can't help
yeah,
with that
we
one.
cover. That's not my specialty. But thank you everybody who tweeted at us, all that stuff. We really appreciate that. We love I think this is a great way to open up the show and kind of ease into our topic. So if you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, constructive criticism, all that fun stuff, you can tweet at us at RBLR Sports, or either of us individually. We'll have our names and stuff in the description, our Twitter handles, all that stuff. You can, just tell us your thoughts and anything Rays related. We're always happy to talk about it. So, thank you all for these submissions. It's always great to have so many of these.
It is. It really. It's great to feel like we're in a community. That's one of the things I love about being part of the fandom is I feel like we have a community of people who are all interested in the same thing, and we can have these discussions. If you want to tell me that you think I'm an idiot and VL Brujan's the best player to ever play baseball, please DM me. I would love to have that conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like if you hate us, tell us. And even if you want to make fun of us and you want to share this podcast with other people to make fun of, like, get together, you can roast us, whatever, but share it or share it in a positive way too. That's always important, but
sharing is caring.
Spread it around. So I know we have our bullpen topic we want to get into, but there were a bunch of like spring training invites. Bunch of guys got, signed to minor league deals with invites to spring training. And then we also had a bunch of, minor leaguers and prospects who were invited. So I'm going to kind of speed run all these names. And if anybody, stands out to you, we can kind of talk about those or who our favorite or most exciting player we want to see is. But we've got Trevor Brigden, Ryan Burr, Cooper Criswell, Evan McKendry, Michael Mercado, Mason Montgomery, Chris Muller, Hector Perez, Evan Reifert, Josh Robertson. We've got Blake Hunt, Tristan Gray, Kyle Manzardo, big name there, Ronnie Simone, Ruben Cardenas, Nico Sire, Cameron Meisner, Grant Witherspoon. We've got Heath Hembry coming in, journeyman kind of lately in the big leagues. Ben Heller. I'm trying to go through the rest of this. There are other guys too I'm missing. But... Oh yeah, Trevor Ellie was the other guy that we talked about a little bit before the show. Yeah, so many players got invites. Zach Birdie, I think, was the other one. Any players in particular you're excited about?
I'm excited to see Mason Montgomery. He's pitched really well the last couple seasons. I'd be curious to see what I'd be curious to see him. Just see, does he have some upside to get to the majors this year? I know. Has he pitched above AA yet? I don't think so.
No.
So I assume he's going to be in AAA. I don't think they've announced like the Durham roster. I have no idea.
Yet.
But I would imagine he probably gets the move up to AAA after how well he pitched last season. But I'm excited to see him. I think he's got some upside. Yeah,
absolutely. Like Montgomery is, I honestly rank him ahead of Taj Bradley, even though I think prospect rankings are kind of dumb. Like that's a hill that I would die on. Is I think Montgomery is going to be better than Bradley. Really excited about Manzo, obviously. Hector Perez is interesting. He was acquired in the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft, and he's kind of like a up and down major league guy, former highly rated prospect. Cooper Criswell still interests me. I know he came up for like 3 innings against the Blue Jays and pitched really well last year. Josh Robertson, part of the return in the Wendell trade, I think, or someone else was traded. I don't know. He came from Miami. I remember that. I've always liked Nico Holsizer. He's got like 70 grade power, but he doesn't make contact too much. But when he does, he hits like, 450-foot home runs relatively easily. So lots of exciting players. I don't necessarily think any of the guys we talked about could break camp because really there's not too many position player or pitcher battles left to sort out. But injuries are going to happen. So I think there's a good chance we'll see at least, half of those guys at some point, maybe even if for like an at bat or an inning or two, like they'll be up eventually.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I think the reason that they invite these guys to camp is because they kind of think that these are the guys that we maybe could see up in the majors this year. And I think that, obviously Kyle Manzardo is the name that comes to mind as like the most likely guy to end up in the majors this year, just because, the fact that they moved on from G-Man Choi this offseason kind of says to me that they're looking to have that position be open and looking to find someone else to solidify that role. And I think the path is kind of being laid for him to move up to that position eventually. I don't know when that happens. And I don't know what the corresponding, who's off, who's, for him to be on. I'm not sure what that is yet. Probably going to have to wait and see how the season plays out, but I think that it's going to be interesting because I think eventually, because the way he's been playing, eventually you're going to no longer be able to ignore his production if he continues to produce at that level. And somebody's going to, if somebody has a bad month, I think he could absolutely be coming up, in, June or July. I think we could see him very easily.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it really depends on what he does at AAA, but it's going to be Manzardo's position, I believe. I mean, I know the Rays kind of platoon things, so we'll get Meade in there, which Meade is also going to spring training. By the way, Neil Solon's confirmed that for me, which was very nice of him. So I appreciate that. So Meade's going to be there. Yeah, I mean, there are so many guys on the roster who can kind of fill in at first as needed. So I don't necessarily think we're going to have like a permanent position there, like Wander at shortstop. And like Jose Siri at center field, I think those are like positional locks, but everyone else is kind of fluid, which is a good thing. I don't necessarily hate like positionless baseball. So yeah, I'm just excited to hopefully see him up this year. If not, that means Luke Raley is doing a great job as a stopgap, and we'll see Manzardo next year. So there's really like no world where things can go so wrong that like all the prospects, we just fill them up with stop gaps and none of the prospects come up. Like someone is going to play well regardless. So I'm just excited about all that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I think the standards of what we expect from this team will necessitate that if we are not playing up, if players are not playing up to that standard, well, we're going to get someone up here who will, because I think there's an expectation of success from this team. So if Luke Raley is not playing well, I don't think they're just going to let it languish. Like they're going to be like, no, we need to get some production. Let's get somebody up. Let's get Mead up here. Let's get Manzardo up here. Like the goal is the playoffs. The goal is winning the division in my mind. Like, I think that's what we're shooting for every year now with the quality of this team. So if that's not happening, then we're not just going to let, run Luke Raley out there every single day if he's not playing well. Like they're going to make adjustments, because I think there's a standard of success that I think we're striving for that necessitates making those changes when they're needed.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that guys like Wander, Brandon Lau, Yandy, Mejia, Bethencourt, probably both of those guys, Jose Siri. I'm just trying to think of all like the guys who are, I said Siri and now my computer thinks I'm talking to it. So all those guys are like, Brady's. I feel like their leash is Randy, like all their leash is a little bit longer. Like if they have like a bad stretch of like 50, 75 plate appearances, like they're not going to get sent down. So I think they're pretty safe, but like the quadruple A type players and the fringes of the roster, like that, we could churn through that relatively quickly. Like the Rays will give their guys a chance. Like they're not going to say, okay, you had a bad series, you're getting sent down. Like it'll have to be like a bad month and a half before like a move is made. But that's, how baseball works, because there's so much variance and fluctuation that like, if you send a guy down for having a bad week, like you're not really giving them a fair shot. And they usually bounce back. Like everybody kind of plays to their career averages once they're established. So yeah, I think we could see, guys like Luke Raley. Gosh, who else is on a short leash? Actually, now that I think of it,
Walls
maybe. But I mean, Bruhan. I'm trying to think of guys that'll like be
Josh Lowe.
Yeah, he would be on a shorter leash because there's depth. Like they have quality players. So yeah. I'm just excited. I mean, I'm trying to think of like Yoshi Susugo. Like they gave him a chance. Like they gave him multiple opportunities, and he's a good player. Like he found a nice role for himself in Pittsburgh for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see a lot of things like that where they don't necessarily get sent down right away, even though there is quality depth behind them.
Well, and I think that it goes back to we're not relying on those guys at the margins to be the production. I think that's kind of when teams rely too much on guys like that, you see that churn and turnover because they're putting their faith in these guys who, if they're not producing, then they get frustrated and there's movement. But that's not really what the Rays are at. We have guys who we are confident in their production, and that's who we're relying on. Not we're not relying on Luke Raley to be a 6-WAR player. Like we're not relying on that.
And if we are, then the season might already be lost at that point. Honestly, like if we're relying on Josh Lowe, Luke Raley, Vidal Brujan, Taylor Walls, I mean, I feel like that would be similar to last year. So I don't want to say it's completely lost. And last year was still good. They made the playoffs. Whatever, that's the goal. But yeah, I think it'll be fine. I think everybody just needs to chill out and let them, find whatever final 1 or 2 free agent bats that they're going to sign to minor league deals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, I guess that pretty much covers what we talked about, the spring training invites. I thought that was a good direction to take that conversation. That was nice. We can move into our topic finally, 30 minutes in here, but that's fine. This is what they come for. They come for us. We don't care about the Rays. They like us. They like to listen to us. So
of course,
that's why they're all here.
Just keep pumping the ego. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's why Eureka stays on in the back here, just so we can listen to us. He's not doing anything important. He's not working on the show, not editing things or keeping track of stuff. He just likes to listen to us. That's all.
Just listening.
But who do you want to talk about first in the bullpen? I've got a little bit of notes on pretty much everybody that we're going to see probably starting in the opening day roster.
I mean, it's almost like too obvious to me is like, I just want to talk about Pete Fairbanks for the next 20 minutes because that's like, he is for the first time in my Rays fandom, I feel like we have a bona fide closer. I feel like I can every day, if we need a guy to go out there and close the game, I feel like we can turn to him and with confidence. And that's just something that's really, really exciting. My thought for him is, beyond all the statistics, and we could talk about, and I'm sure you're going to give us all the statistics of how great he is, but I want to know, why are we not getting on this Edwin Diaz, walk-up song, spectacle thing? We live in it. We play in a dome where we have all kinds of ability to make him coming out of the ninth a spectacle. I think it needs to happen. Like, baseball is theater. Like, let's get some spectacle here when it's, bottom of the ninth and Pete Fairbanks is walking out there to close it out. Let's get some spectacle going on out here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think there was some kind of tweet going around last season that I saw about kind of related to that, where I think like either like the Friday the 13th music or like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like something like that going on, like, because he is a psycho out there. Like he's got a demon fastball. Like he's a villain, and I love having that on our team. Like, it's so cool. Like nobody wants to face him. The stuff is incredible. So yeah, absolutely. They got to definitely lean into that because he's crazy and it's awesome.
He is intimidating on the mound. And I think that is something that you cannot teach that. You cannot train that. You cannot manufacture that. He just has this presence when he's on the mound. He is going to throw a 100-mile-per-hour fastball at the top of the zone, and you are not going to hit it no matter how hard you try. Like, that's what's going to happen. Or he's going to throw a slider and make you look bad because you're expecting the fastball. Like, I think that level of intimidation factor is just it's something that we haven't really had. Like, I feel like, Castillo had that a little bit. Diego Castillo had a little bit of that. Alvarado had a little bit of that, but neither of them were consistent enough really to bring that. And even like our guys that have been really good in the past couple of years, like, Colin McHugh, Andrew Kittredge, the guys who have been like kind of our best reliever, none of them have had this like intimidation, or of like Nick Anderson maybe had a little bit of that because he was just so dominant for that stretch. But like the factor of this is not going to end well for you every time you walk up to the plate. Like, it's not going to end well for you. I feel like that's what I'm really excited to see more of this year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy that a guy who's had 2 Tommy John surgeries and like a torn lat can be so dominant. Like, he doesn't care that he's been hurt before. Like, he's invincible. So he's just going to come back and throw 100 miles an hour and dare you to hit it. So yeah, he's one of 2 pitchers who had an 80 grade fastball in all of Major League Baseball last season on Pitching Bot. Him and Javi Guerra both had 80 grade fastballs. The fastball is the bread and butter. It's got a 98th percentile induced vertical break, which is like vertical movement. So he's in the 98th percentile in there, 98th percentile of velocity. Just the fastball is the pitch. The slider is good. Like, it's like a slightly above average slider. It gets decent whiffs, but like, that fastball is something else.
Yeah, I think it's such a dominating pitch that, batters are not like I think there is some level of like, when you get the Rays pitchers coming up in the league, sometimes there's the idea where batters don't know these pitchers and what they have, coming at them. So there can be some trickery. There's not a whole lot of trickery with Pete Fairbanks. It's pretty much, I'm going to throw a fastball or a slider, and it doesn't matter. Like, to me, and that's like, I don't, I'm not comparing him to Mariano Rivera. That's a little bit too much. But like, the idea that what he's going to do when he goes out there, and it doesn't matter, you're still not going to hit it. That I think that is what makes a truly intimidating and like high level closer, is when you know what's coming and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, he's so, like, he just has the tools, but he's also a really good pitcher too. Like, I don't want anybody to think like he's just, gripping it and ripping it out there. Like, I was trying to find out, like, is he actually like commanding? Like, what is he doing? He has a 19.8 called strike rate on his slider, which among all breaking balls from relief pitchers, that's in the 85th percentile. So he can drop that slider in for a strike. Like, he's not afraid to do that. And he's got a 50.7% strike rate with the slider in general. So that includes like foul balls and stuff. And that's in the 91st percentile. So he's still throwing strikes quality strikes with both pitches, with pretty good command of both of them, and it's just so impressive to watch. And the last I have actually two interesting things on him here. One of them is he has a 34.1% whiff rate in the playoffs, which is the highest in Rays playoff history of having a minimum of 50 swings. So out of all the pitchers that the Rays have thrown out there in the playoffs, he has the best whiff rate. And he has thrown 666 fastballs and sinkers technically over the past 2 seasons combined. So that was really interesting to me. I'm like, there's no way he threw 666 exactly over the past 2 years. Yeah, like that's so cool.
That's so cool. He's just so much fun. Like
Yeah.
He's just exciting to watch. I think that's one of the things that makes me I'm in so much enjoying being a Rays fan right now is we have so many players like him that are just like, I cannot wait. It is must see TV. Every time Pete Fairbanks walks on the mound, I am stopping whatever I am doing, if I wasn't already, to watch him pitch because it is like, I want to see what happens every single time. Like, I think that he's box office, as much as,
absolutely.
In the market we are in, there could be box office. He's box office.
Any concerns or any dislikes at all with Fairbanks heading into 2023?
The only thing is, you mentioned briefly the injuries. Like, I just want to see, like, can he keep this level of, production up for a full season? I think he can. I don't have, any concerns that he can. It's just, will his body allow him to do that for a full season? And I really hope it does, because I think we could, I think it could be some really fun debates between who's the best closer in baseball if he can stick it out a full season. That's really my only concern.
Yeah, me too, with the health for sure. And I just wanted to address like the command stuff a little bit more, because I feel like, I mean, not so much last season because he was so dominant, but like in the past, people have talked about he's kind of all over the place. Like, you don't know what version you're going to get of him. Over the past 2 years, he has a 52nd percentile walk rate, which is like, that's average. Like, that's not terrible for a relief pitcher. But his 10-game rolling average on his walk rate over the past, like, starting like late 2021 through the end of 2022 last year, you know what I meant. Whatever.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I know what you meant.
Yeah. So the previous season heading into last season, he got his 10-game rolling average on his walk rate. It's in like the 5.5 to 6% range, which is in the like 75th, 80th percentile. So like the command has been fine for like not just last year, but like about a year and a half now. So he's set. He's got the second lowest FIP among relief pitchers over the last 2 years at 2.04, minimum 60 innings. He's going to be the guy in high leverage. I think Adam will still get some high leverage stuff, but like Fairbanks he's the guy.
Yeah, and I think that with the command stuff, I think it's one of those things, and this is also something that a couple of our pitchers suffer from down this list. There's a couple of memories I think Rays fans have of Fairbanks getting in some trouble with his command, and that kind of becomes a narrative when it's the exception, not the rule with him. And I think that kind of informs that thought process, because to me, I think the fact you can say he's gripping it and ripping it, putting it at the top of the zone, but if he's putting it like he puts that fastball in really good locations consistently. Yes. So to me, I think the command is only improving. To me, all that says is he's getting better. Like he is getting better, not worse. So which, if he's going to get better than what he currently is, like, watch out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like he is. Yeah, I don't really know like what another level of Fairbanks would look like. Like, what could he look like if he does, have that command consistently for a full year, kind of like he's been doing? But I don't think last season, in his, relatively short time, healthy, I don't think that's an outlier. Like, I think that's who he actually is. So I'm really excited to see him this year and just stay healthy. That's all I want. If he can go like, 50 to 60 innings, obviously I'd prefer like 60, but manage the workload, keep him fresh all year. No, I'm cool with that. I just want to see him pitch. I'm excited.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
Nice. Seems like the next logical guy to talk about would be Jason Adam then, because we kind of touched on him a little bit. He's fantastic too. What a great find by the research and development guys in the Rays front office. Like, they optimized his changeup specifically, but a couple other things. He's got a great mix. similar to, I think Fairbanks is probably a little bit more dominant, but like Jason Adam is really, really good. And I don't think he overperformed as much as some of the projections are thinking, because a lot of the projections think he's going to regress quite a bit this year. And I don't really expect that to happen, because he does some really interesting things with some under the hood numbers.
Yeah, and I think that, the regression, I think that there's some discussion that he had kind of regressed a little bit towards the end of the season. But I mean, I don't know, the last time we saw him pitch, we walked out there with the bases loaded and no outs. And when he left the mound, no runs were scored. So I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty good. I think he is such a valuable tool for this team. My nickname for him is the silencer, because I think that because you have a bona fide closer in Pete Fairbanks, it allows you to use, Jason Adam as your secret weapon. Whenever you're in trouble in the game, you can put him out there and know he will calm it down. Or when you go to, like, when you move out of your whoever you're starting that day, and the next time, like in my mind, after the starting pitcher finishes, the next time the most dangerous part of the lineup gets up, and like for between the 6th to the 9th, like he is the guy that goes out there and just ends any chance of a rally. Like he goes out there, he puts away your best hitters, and then you pass it off to whoever else than Pete Fairbanks. And I think that is such a valuable weapon to preserve leads, because you have starting pitchers who are going to keep the score low, and then you have, hopefully your offense is going to do a good job. And he is such a valuable weapon to reduce the amount of comebacks we have. And I think that additionally, because we have a loaded bullpen and we have Pete Fairbanks to be our closer, I think you will see him get used less, not because he's injured or we don't need him, but because we don't need to rely on him as much. Like I think he's going to be healthier throughout the year and not have that sort of regression, because we're not going to be relying on him as a crutch the way we have relied on our top guy in the past. That's kind of been a thing that I think the Rays have done in the past a couple of years. We have a guy and we rely on him a little too much, because sometimes the bullpen is not as strong behind him. But I don't think that's a problem we have with either Fairbanks or Adam, because we have both of them. I don't think either one is going to get, force-fed innings when they need a rest.
No, absolutely not. And I think even the guys behind him are still pretty deep, and we're going to talk about those in a little bit. But yeah, Adam is really like 1A and 1B with Fairbanks up there. Like he like I said, he did overperform a little bit, but he didn't really overperform. Like his FIP was like a full run lower than his ERA, or no, his ERA was like a full run lower than his FIP. But and he did have a 194 BABIP. The BABIP against relief pitchers was a 288, like league wide, on average last year. So it seems like he overperformed, but he has a history of overperforming. Like the expected run value on his stuff for the last 5 years, so that's a pretty long and consistent sample. He overperforms every single time, and it's kind of speculated that that's due to seam shifted wake, which is when the axis on the ball shifts on its way to the plate. And it kind of gives the illusion of the ball is moving in another direction. So it's typically considered in the past as late break. So when scouts are oh yeah, he's got good late break on his pitches, that's actually we're able to quantify that now, and that's seam shifted wake. And his changeup actually benefits from seam shifted wake more than any other pitch in baseball, because it gets what was it, 5 inches more drop than expected, and about an inch more of horizontal break, because of that, the deviation in that ball's axis as it's spinning on its way to the plate. So he does things that we haven't really been able to quantify in the past that help him overperform. So he's going to continue that overperformance. That's just what he does, because his pitches are built like that. And the Rays were able to identify that and actually kind of tweak it and optimize it. So now he's really he's like a cheat code, basically. He's like a human video game out there, and it's so cool. He's phenomenal.
That's so interesting. I like the idea that, because I've heard that term late break. It's so interesting that we can now quantify that. I'd be curious to see if maybe, if he continues to pitch at this level, if the analytics will start to catch on and be oh, it's not just he's getting lucky. It's he is doing something actively to do what he's doing and have that success be. I mean, it doesn't really matter if the analytics agree that he's a good pitcher. He is sorry, if you want to, at some point, like you can just watch the games and like, yeah, he's really good. Like, come on. So I think, but it would be cool to see the analytics kind of agree. And like, yeah, like this sort of expectation is not actually accurate based on what he's doing different than other pitchers are.
Yeah, like a lot of like stuff models and like, pitcher metrics and stuff. Like they're starting to incorporate seam shifted wake a bit more. I know Pitching Bot like started doing that within the past couple months, I want to say. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's like this horseshoe of like, on one end, it's like Jason Adam is good because he overperforms, and then the analytics, like you get to the middle of the horseshoe, and it's like he does all these things analytically, but then on the opposite end of the horseshoe, it's like he's still overperforming. So it's kind of like coming full circle where it's like the analytics people and the eye test people are like shaking hands where he's like, oh, he's really good because he's got late break, but like they just have different ideas of late break. And I don't know, it's so interesting how he's able to do that consistently. And I'm just so glad the Rays got it before anybody else did, because he's like a gold mine of talent. So yeah, is there anything like you dislike or want to improve or want Adam to improve in heading into 2023?
Not really. I mean, I don't know. How's his pickoff move? I don't know. Like, I can't really think of anything because, he hasn't really had I don't recall he's really having like an injury history. And I think that any of the regression he was seeing at the end of the season was due to overuse because we didn't have Pete Fairbanks the whole season. And so he kind of was and Kitteridge getting hurt and us losing McHugh and not having Fairbanks, I think, put a lot of pressure on him to perform last year because we didn't really have a guy for a lot of the year, and he stepped up to that plate. But I think there was a lot of pressure put on him throughout the season, and I think we're going to not see that this year. So I think I'm not really worried.
No, me neither. And I think, like you said, he was kind of thrown to that role and he succeeded, but I think it'll be a little bit of an easier go this time around. I know he kind of had Fire Eisen helping him out for like 20 innings.
That's
and he
true.
was great,
He did.
But then he also fell apart. So yeah, Adam was kind of on an island out there, but he was able to hang tough and get it done. And my only criticism of him is kind of nitpicky, but his average horizontal slider location started drifting left as the season went on. And if you check his Savant, like month to month slider locations, like horizontally, like it kept going more left, and it kind of culminated in that Bo Bichette home run that was like later in the season where it was like Adam was throwing him sliders, and then he got like a slider in a great location, but he was still able to hit it out. That slider that he threw him had a expected run value of -6.8, and the scale ranges from +5 being like a really bad pitch to -5 being like an elite pitch. So he was at a -6.8. Like that was like an elite location, perfect pitch, but the location was not very. It was good, but it wasn't good because it kept drifting left as the season went on. So if like the pitch was going to that spot, it was most likely going to be a slider. And if a guy could keep his hands back and he was on a really hot run like Bo Bichette was at the time, he was probably going to do something with that pitch. And unfortunately he did. But yeah, I think like just kind of keeping everything more central or adding in a fourth pitch. I know he experimented with a knuckle curve a little bit last year. But his tunnels are really great. It was just they started to come undone towards the end of the year, but maybe that was because of fatigue or whatever. But he did correct it like after that Bichette home run. So I really have no problem with that pitch specifically, but it was kind of like the symptom of the bigger problem of his location starting to become a little bit predictable.
Yeah, and again, I think another thing that kind of feeds into that is the pitch. The person he threw that pitch to was probably the hottest, hitter in baseball at that time. And I think he like, I don't know if there's a statistic for this, but like he faces the best hitters in the lineup more than like your average. I think he faces the best hitters in your lineup more than your average pitcher. If there's a statistic for like percentile rate of, facing hitters with above 800 OPS or whatever. Like he would be in that high percentile because he's facing the best hitters on the opposing team consistently. And the fact that he's able to keep the numbers where they're at, considering the level of like the hitter he's being thrown out there against, like that's pretty significant. It's not like he's going out there to face 7, 8, 9 every night. Like that's not who Jason Adams is pitching against.
Right. I think I could probably find something on that if I search Savant hard enough, but I'll do that later because that would take a while and I'd get distracted and not be able to talk about pitchers and stuff. But one more thing before we move on, Jason Adam does have slightly better like reverse splits against left-handed pitching, our left-handed batter, sorry. So he's probably going to get like, him and Fairbanks. I think Fairbanks will get like, slightly more high leverage opportunities, but if it's like high leverage and you're facing like 2 of the 3 are going to be lefties, I think we might see Adam in that situation just because, they both have good splits against both sides, but Adam is slightly better against lefties, probably because of that. Actually, it is because of the changeup. Like that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I mean, but both are going to be up there in high leverage, 8th, 9th inning, whenever the game's on the line, like they're going to be in the game. So I'm just glad we have 2 guys that can handle that kind of role.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that that's something that we haven't had, consistently. Like I think we've had moments in seasons where we've had 2 guys that can do that. But we haven't had it consistently. And so I think if those 2 stay healthy all year, it's going to be really hard to score runs against the Rays past like the 6th inning. It's going to be hard to score runs against the Rays all the time, but especially when you get into those late inning situations where you have both of them out there, and I think, would you say Adam is capable of multi-inning? He doesn't do it a lot, but I think I've seen him do multi-innings occasionally. So like, that's also like just a really valuable aspect of his, him being out there.
Yeah, I think they could definitely give him like an up down every once in a while. Maybe, I don't know about like the full 6 outs it would take, but like,
right.
I feel like they did it last year, maybe a bit out of necessity, but I think if it's like needed, like if it's a necessity again, I think they could, definitely throw him out there for that. So yeah, he's the guy. And I think, him and Fairbanks could be like one of the most dominant bullpen duos in Rays history, maybe since like Fernando Rodney and Joaquin Benoit, like that kind of thing. I know Nick Anderson and Fairbanks were good, but like Fairbanks was still coming into his own in that point. So yeah, I mean, this is just such a great back end of the bullpen, and they're still so deep too. Like these aren't the only 2 good guys in the bullpen.
No, not at all. Like we have a litany of guys. We could get into some of the other guys. I think we could. You want to talk about Poche? I think.
Yeah. I know we're what are we at, like close to an hour maybe right now, but I mean that's not bad. I just don't want to take up. I don't want to do this in like 2 parts either because I feel like like the second half of this, like the rest of the pitchers, like they're still great, but they're not as exciting as Adam and Fairbanks. So maybe we can kind of like speed run the last couple of guys here.
Sure. Yeah.
Starting with Poche though, if you want to start with Poche, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. I have a take on Poche, and I think that he's an oft maligned pitcher in the Rays, bullpen, and I think it's mostly because he has some unfortunate blowups in high leverage moments because he's been put in some high leverage moments because. Spoiler, I think he's pretty good. And I think they occasionally he's had some blowups that skew the opinions of Rays fans negatively against him, where I think he's really, he's not like the top of your bullpen guy, but he is a guy that you can rely on to go out there and be good consistently, I think.
I think he is more reliable than he gets credit for. Like his good outings are really good, but then he's had, like you said, like a couple blowups.
Yep.
Not necessarily like, I mean, it is his fault because he's literally the pitcher on the mound, but like how many blowups were on the road in Toronto when their other lefty was unavailable for, medical reasons? So it's like, these aren't situations that he would normally like be put into, but he was put into them and he fared really well. Like, and he did get better as the season went on. Like the biggest transformation in the Rays bullpen was probably Colin Poche's curveball. The velocity climbed from, mid to high 70s to mid 80s by the end of the year, like much tighter break. The velo separation helped it tunnel with the fastball better. He's that was his first season back coming off Tommy John surgery. Like he did a lot of things really well, all things considered, like when you factor in all that context. So I'm interested to see if he can keep that curveball, up that high in the velocity and maybe like give it a couple more ticks. But he's starting to look like a left-handed Nick Anderson, and we know how great Nick Anderson was with that rising fastball and sharp curve combination. So Poche had the most induced vertical break on his fastball in Major League Baseball last year. Like literally the most rise on a fastball was from Colin Poche, and he just having that curveball at a little bit going a little bit faster is really going to make a big difference, I think. So I'm excited for a full season of that.
Yep, I just think he needs to figure out how to. I don't know what. It'd be interesting to like do a like deep dive in what went wrong in those blow ups. But I think he's got to figure out how to limit those blow ups. I mean, every reliever's gonna have them. Like nobody's perfect, but like if he can, but he does tend to have them a little more often. So if he can just figure out how to, limit those blow ups, I think we could see him really, really improve this season.
Absolutely. And he's so talented. It's crazy. And I'm pretty confident he's not even the best lefty in the bullpen heading into 2023. Like Garrett Cleavinger, he's the next guy I want to talk about here. I think he's going to be a top 10 relief pitcher in baseball. Like I feel so confident about that. Like I already think Fairbanks and Adam are going to be, but there are so many things he does well that Garrett Cleavinger that there's no way he's not a top 10 relief pitcher, assuming he's healthy the full season.
Yeah, I agree. Like literally my biggest takeaway from him last season is I just want to see more of this guy. Like he just is super intriguing with what he does on the mound. I would like to see him pitch more, please, because I'm just really intrigued by him.
The stuff is phenomenal. The delivery is even better somehow. Like he's in like the 90th percentile in release height. So like a lower release height is better, creates more rise. Super flat vertical approach angles on his fastball and his sinker, which is interesting. Like sinkers, usually you want some sink, but his is more of I guess it's basically a two-seamer. But 97th percentile vertical approach angle on the fastball, 93rd on the sinker. The tunnels are good, but he hides the ball really, really well. Kind of like what Beeks and Poche do as lefties. The spin mirroring on his pitches like help with the tunnels. Like everything like everything like an analytics person like looks at when they're trying to create like the perfect pitcher is something he does. Like his command was the only like spotty thing, but the universal targets kind of that the Rays catchers threw out there really helped him. And hitters have no idea what's coming whenever he's pitching. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think he is verging on like create a player territory of like what he can do. And again, I think that's only going to be accentuated with a full season of him, doing all of that and continuing to get better, continuing to work with Kyle Snyder and with the Rays catchers. I think we're going to see, I think that the fact that some of these guys can get better is just really scary for the other hitters in Major League Baseball.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like he really is a create a player type guy. Like he's a decent velocity, like low slot lefty, 4+ pitches, nearly like perfect mechanics. Like, what else do you want from this guy? Like they really don't know what's coming. It's so crazy. And I kind of want to make like a little Twitter thread on this because there's so much that he does well that's really cool. But the way he like throws his pitches, like the usage, he goes slider and curveball 45.8% of the time, and then fastball sinker 54.2% of the time. And like he throws the slider and curve to one side of the zone, fastball sinker to the other. And it's like the usage combined with like the spin, like the way the spin looks, everything looks the same coming out of the hand. And that actually led to a 33.3% chase rate, which is the 90th percentile. But yeah, I've got like another like chase rate thing that I'm kind of working on, which is interesting too. But he's so cool. Like I want to watch him pitch every day, even though that's probably not safe for his health.
Probably not. But I think one thing that I think batters are going to be very glad they don't have to face him every day, because I think he's a guy you don't want to face because again, you just don't know what's coming. And that as a hitter, like you have guys like that we kind of know what their arsenal looks like. But with Clevinger, it's got to be so hard as a hitter to go up there and try to lock in, because what are you going to lock in on? Like, what are you going to like sit on? Like, you can't really sit on anything. That's got to be really tough as a hitter. And I think that's just going to make, making batters uncomfortable is a great component of a pitching arsenal.
Oh yeah, yeah. And speaking of making batters uncomfortable, so there are different like zones outside of the strike zone on Savant. Like there's like the shadow zone, which is like kind of around the edges. There's like the chase zone, which is like outside of the shadow zone, and then there's like the waste zone. So like pitches that aren't even close to being strikes. His chase rate in the waste zone, so like how many times a hitter swings at pitches that like are not even close to being strikes out of the hand, is 12.9%, which doesn't seem high, but that's in the 95th percentile. So he gets an insane amount of chases. And like, we've seen it, like there was a video I posted a little while ago of him facing Josh Naylor on, or is it Josh or no, it's Josh. I forgot he has a brother Bo on the same organization, but with Cleveland, he's like, it's lefty on lefty, and he chases a slider that's like 2.5 feet out of the zone, like it's in the other batter's box. And it's so crazy because like hitters do that because they genuinely like don't know what's coming. Like, I'm not just saying that because the pitch mix is good and the tunnels are good, but like professional baseball hitters do not know what he's going to throw at any given time. And that is so cool. That is so much fun.
Yep. I think we petition to rename that stat, making the hitter look bad percentile. Like, I think because that's what it is. When you can make a major league hitter, one of the, best players in the world, look bad, that's something to hang your hat on.
Yeah. And he does it consistently too. So yeah, we can call it oof percentage. I like that. That's a good one. Oof rate. Yeah.
Oof rate. That's great.
I could talk about Clevenger for hours, but something else I could talk about for hours is fashion. And if you are an RBLR listener, you know fashion because you've already bought a shirt. So if you haven't bought a shirt, you better get on that. Valentine's Day is coming up. We're going to cover up Zach's face here with our ad if you're watching the video. But actually, I don't think we're rolling out video yet. So you don't see this ad, but it looks great. Lots of cool stuff. You can use promo code FLAPPY right there on the screen. If you can't see it, I'll read it to you. It's FLAPPY. You get 10% off your order. Become a fashionista and look good for Valentine's Day. Maybe you want to get the love of your life a shirt. Maybe the love of your life is yourself and you want to buy yourself a shirt. Either way, do it. Spending money helps us create even better stuff more frequently. So go to shop.rblrsports.com and buy some stuff.
Yep. Normalize self-love. Just, if you want to love yourself with a shirt, do it today.
We got to figure out like RBLR Day. Like, how can we create that into a, I don't know. Eureka's going to work on it in the background. I can feel it.
There's some content there.
Okay. The L in RBLR is for love.
Just got to figure out what the other letters are.
Yeah. We'll let him work on that. That's above our pay grade. Any other pitchers you want to touch on here? We can probably run through like a couple more if we maybe condense it a bit.
Sure. I like Jalen Beeks just because he's got a fun delivery. I just kind of like watching him. I think he's a fun guy because he's a multi-inning guy. He can be, he's made starts before. I think he's a useful tool to have in the bullpen. He's just kind of fun to watch because he's got a fun delivery. Yeah,
I was going to say, like, he's super versatile. Love the delivery. Love the changeup. Pretty good splits, actually, the both sides of the plate. So I do like that. And he's another guy that just came off Tommy John surgery and was pretty successful, all things considered. Yeah. So he's probably like the second best lefty. I think him and Poche are close behind Clevenger. But again, like three quality, like high quality lefties coming out of the bullpen. I love it.
Yeah, the other one that I would think of is Kittredge. I don't know what to expect from him this year. I really hope he comes back. Who knows? It'd be really fun if he did. I think in like a perfect world. And I mean, we may already have this with Clevenger, but like I love the idea of having a three-headed monster of Fairbanks, Adam, and Kittredge, or even Fairbanks, Adam, Clevenger, Kittredge. Like that's a devastating bullpen if Kittredge could come back healthy. But who knows what to expect for him. But that's kind of, I'm like sort of in the back of my mind, like watching, like, hey, is he making progress? Because that's like the last infinity stone on the gauntlet of the Rays bullpen.
Right.
Like if you drop Kittredge in there, like that's I think that's the full Avidity Gauntlet right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he has excellent stuff grades, strong tunnels. Like he wasn't good by accident. Like he wasn't, he didn't luck himself into an all-star appearance in 2021. Like he's the real deal. So if he's healthy and his pitch quality and his stuff grades are like, close to where he was pre Tommy John, like he's another high leverage reliever. If it's not great, like he's still a pretty usable arm.
Yeah.
And I'm still excited to have him. But we've also got like Colby White. He could come back at some point, or actually come up at some point, because I know he wasn't, ever really up. Anything you're excited about specifically with Colby White?
I just think there's a lot of potential. Like I think, I love seeing. I think it's fun to see young relievers come up, because that's a really interesting, like, a lot of like the young arms we're most excited about are like starting pitchers, but to see a younger guy who's a reliever coming up, I think that's really exciting to see. I want to see what his full potential is going to be. Can he mature into a top of the bullpen guy? Like, I don't know. I think I'm really excited to see his development, and I want to see him get major league at bats to continue that development.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. I'm so excited about him. I got my hands on some minor league data from 2021. I'm not supposed to say who gave it to me, because he doesn't want people like hounding him for data, and he also won't give me any more data now. But that's fine. I got what I needed with Colby White, and his induced vertical break is similar to Poche and Fairbanks, where it's like among the best in the league, but his release height is like half a foot lower, so he gets like an even more like flat, almost like rising plane or movement on his fastball to the plate. So like I plugged in his pitch statistics on his fastball into the pitching bot pitch grader thingy or whatever, and on the 20 to 80 scale, his fastball from 2021 grades at an 82, so he like broke the scale essentially. He's got a slider too that's pretty good. It's like, maybe a little bit above average, but it's decent. And he also started throwing a splitter like towards the end of 2021, because like I was listening to an interview with him with Neil Solondz, and he was like talking to a coach, and he's like, oh yeah, I used to throw a splitter in college. So he started throwing that, and that turned out to be a really good pitch. I plugged in the grades or the stats for that in the pitching bot, but he also broke it, but in a different way. So like the fastball broke it because it was like insanely good, but the splitter graded out as a -5 on the 20 to 80 scale. So like I feel like, I mean, the splitter was good. Like I've seen video of it and it's awesome, but like what, like, is it,
what's going on there? Like,
yeah, like nobody else throws a splitter like him. So it's super unique. It doesn't drop very much, and it has a ton of and not a ton of spin, but like a lot more spin than normal splitters. So it's almost like a changeup in a way.
Interesting.
But yeah, so I might run it as a changeup and see what happens. But it's a really good pitch, though.
Yeah, I think that'd be something interesting if he comes up to the major leagues and we get some more data on him. Like, do they reclassify it? A splitter? We don't see a whole lot of splitters anymore in Major League Baseball. I'm always down for a splitter.
Yeah, and like a splitter from that release height, like coming in like mid 80s, like it's really interesting. So we'll have to see, but yeah, just so many weapons in the bullpen. I think we got most. I mean, there's like Thompson. He's got a really cool like arm angle from the right side. Like, I mean, he's good, but he's not like a high leverage guy. I don't think
he's not.
At least I hope not.
No.
He needs to stop getting hurt. That's like my biggest criticism of him. But I love the arm slot on the slider. He has the 5th steepest horizontal approach angle in the league. So I already talked about vertical approach angle, where it's like up and down. Horizontal, obviously side to side. So that ball comes in. It's when he throws a slider, it starts out behind a right-handed batter. So like they have to swing when the ball is like coming at them, and that creates some pretty awkward swings. So everybody's got like a cool thing that they do, though, basically.
Yeah, I think another one, Armstrong. I think he's another guy who I think is maligned because he was put in some he was kind of hung out to dry a lot last season. But like when you think about, I think he can eat innings, which is something that like is super valuable and super underrated. Like, listen, there's like 1,500 innings that somebody's got to pitch every year. Like somebody's got to pitch them. Like you can't just not pitch those innings. So like he has value on this team, and he's not a bad pitcher to throw out there for those innings. Like I think he was a little bit overexposed last year, but I think with being a little underexposed this year, I think he could see some improvement in his like counting statistics.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. I think he could possibly like, I mean, I don't think they'll really need it because they have so many other options, but if they needed like to stretch someone out to be a starter like they did with Springs last year,
Yeah.
Armstrong would be kind of like the next guy. Like he has like honestly like probably the best pitching tunnels on the entire roster. Like that's what his stuff is like all decent, but like the tunnels are really what makes it so good. He unlocked a new career high in velocity. Like he's throwing really hard with the
Yeah.
Rays.
Mm-hmm.
They got a good thing going on. So I like Armstrong a lot. He's sneaky good, really good out there.
He is. The other guy is Fauché, who just needs to like, can we just get this man a target for like a couple weeks? Like, cause the stuff is, is bonkers, but like the dude cannot keep it in the zone. Like, so he just got to figure it out. Like, I think there's a lot of potential there, but like he's I think it's a classic example of if he can just figure out how to throw strikes, he's going to be really dangerous, but he currently has not figured that out yet. So he's got some work to do.
No, he's got elite spin on all of his pitches. Like you said, his stuff is it's major league ready. Like it's crazy. I think the command could get better if he can figure out like what he wants to pair with his curveball. His curveball is by far his best pitch, but he only threw it 14% of the time because like he never really was able to create a situation to like go to that pitch because his slider was like doesn't tunnel well at all. Like it looks very different. His sinker is really like a two-seamer, and that thing doesn't really pair well with the curve. A fastball might be good for him, but he really just needs to find a second pitch, and then I think the command will start to come once he's able to like figure out how he wants to work with those pitches. So, we'll see, but he's still really exciting. He's a high stuff guy for sure.
He's like a boomer bust type of guy for me.
Yeah.
Like I think he, like in a perfect world, he figures something out and then he's like this elite weapon out of the bullpen. But it's just going to be a question of can he unlock that last like level on his command. So that's going to be it'll be a fun thing to kind of watch because again, like I think if we were this goes back to if we were in a scenario where we're like we knew we needed him to pitch a significant amount of innings this year, I think there'd be some concern. But like he's kind of like a project. Like I don't think we're never gonna be like, man, we really got to get some innings out of this guy. Like that's not really where we're at. Like he's gonna be kind of a project, and you want to see can he develop into something really dangerous. But like he's a project, and I think that I believe we are in a very good position where we have the luxury of having a project guy on the major league roster. Like that's a luxury that a lot of teams don't have.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely exciting. I wanted to turn into something just because I really, really love the curveball, but we'll see. I mean, he's kind of at the fringes. So there are other guys we can see like, coming up from the minors to kind of eat some innings. Maybe they stick on the roster, maybe they don't. But there is one last guy. I don't know if you had much on him because I couldn't find much, but Kevin Kelly, he's the first like Rule 5 pick the Rays have had in, I think, in the last decade. Like they really don't do that. They don't go outside of the organization to fill a 40-man spot in the Rule 5 draft like ever. But they did it for Kevin Kelly. They traded for him from the Rockies after the Rule 5 draft. So like it was like immediately after he was picked. So like technically, actually he literally has to stay on the roster the full season. I mean, if he goes on the IL, like that's whatever, but they can't send him down or DFA him or whatever, or he goes back to Cleveland. So, but did you find anything on Kevin Kelly?
The thing that I found interesting about him is he's got a 4-pitch mix, which again is something that I think is really interesting. And I think all 4 pitches are pretty good. The curveball has some good statistics on it. It's got a good chase rate. I think that could be a weapon. And I think that the fact that, and again, like you're saying, the fact that they were willing to go out of their way to go get him means they see something in him. I think having a 4-pitch mix speaks to me to versatility and then he can do a lot of things. And I just want to see, there's not a lot of statistics out there on him. He doesn't have a whole lot of innings in the majors. So there's not a whole lot of information out there. What was the statistics? I think there was his extension was in like the 82nd percentile. I was like one of the only statistics that was available on him was his extension was in the 82nd percentile. So that's interesting. And I think that just the fact that they were willing to say, we want this guy enough that we're going to go out of our way to do this, I think means they see something in him. And I want to see what they see.
Yeah, me too. Like you said, his arsenal is really deep. He did have a 4 pitch mix last year. In the past, he did have a changeup too. But he kind of scrapped that. So he has 4, possibly 5 pitches he can throw.
Mhm.
Maybe they stretch him out to some kind of starting role. I don't
Yeah.
really think so though, because of the velo. Like he's topping out like low 90s with his sinker and
Right.
fastball. So really good sweeping slider. I watched a video of him where he talked about like vertical release point and different arm slots. So I'm like, okay, so he's like a pitching lab kind of guy, and he actually has 2 different arm slots. Like he's got like they're both relatively low, but like one of them is like really low with his sinker and slider, and then his fastball curve and that changeup he used to throw all come from like a bit of a higher arm slot. So he's kind of like he's got a lot of tools, and I'm really excited to see how the Rays harness that because there's so much potential. Like he generates a ton of weak contact, not a ton of swing and miss, but like he can get chases, so like he can get swing and miss that way.
Yeah.
Lots of interesting stuff. So the Rays, found a guy who fits what they like to do pretty well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the Rays see in him for sure. Did we talk about Yanni Chirino some at some point? Have we talked about him?
No, but we should. I mean, I can.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to talk about him today necessarily, but like I feel like he's kind of a like forgotten arm in the
Mhm.
Rays system who is really good. I actually love Yanni Chirino, so I think he's a really good pitcher. He pitched really well for us a couple seasons ago, and he's been dealing with injuries, but he's back now. I'm really curious to see what the Rays have planned for him as far as his role in the team this year. But I think he's a really valuable multi-inning arm that again, you talk about innings eating, but like sometimes you need people to eat innings at a high level, and I think he can do that. Like if you like, he's a guy that if your starter doesn't, if you have a guy who comes out for a start and he doesn't perform well, has a rough start, he can be the guy to come in there and kind of calm that down and give you some innings. Like I think, and he is 100% a starter. Like he could, and I don't know what, again, I don't know what the role they have for him, but he's a very valuable arm that the Rays have available.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if he can go in like that Colin McHugh type role from a couple of years ago and pitch like 2, maybe get close to 3 innings every
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 days, coming in behind a starter. Like if he can go
Mm-hmm.
from like Glass now gives you 5, Chirinos gives you 2, maybe 3, and then like Fairbanks or Adam closes it out. Like
Yep.
that's a great formula. So I think he's gonna be kind of like a Swiss Army knife. His stuff does play up in shorter stints, but he can go multi innings, like you said. So I'm excited about him, and I'm curious to see what role he's going to have because there's really no bad place to put him. I just want to see him pitch again because I'm glad he's healthy.
Yeah, me too. I was really disappointed when he got hurt because he's a really fun guy to watch. He's really
Yeah,
easy to root for. I'm excited to have him back and can't wait to see what the role he has this year.
yeah, absolutely. I've got like one little question here for you before we start to wrap it up.
Mhm.
If you had to guess, who do you think has the highest or had the highest fastball whiff rate on the team last year in 2022?
The fact that you're asking me this question makes me think the answer is not Pete Fairbanks, so that would be too easy. Um,
Fairbanks was close.
he-
I will say that.
was it Poche?
No, it was not Poche.
Not
Uh,
Poche.
yeah. You want one more guess?
Oh,
I would have never guessed this in a million years.
Armstrong.
It is Armstrong. Yeah. Nice.
Yes,
Highest fastball whiff rate on the team, third highest in baseball, actually, with
really.
100 fastballs thrown. Yeah. It's
Okay.
the tunnels. Like the
Yeah.
fastball looks exactly like the cutter, which looks exactly like the sinker, which looks exactly like the slider, like everything. And he throws them all like pretty much in the same spot too. Like everything is going in the zone essentially, like relatively close to the middle, which typically is a dangerous thing to do, but like the velocity separation and like everything moves just enough. Like he's got some good stuff. Like I think he's like a pitching coach's dream out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
he's cool.
have an embarrassment of riches. Like that's all I could say.
Yeah.
Like coming out of like I think that's all. Like I mean, I thought that going into this discussion and coming out of it, I just feel it more strongly. It's like it's an embarrassment of riches. I think there's an argument that like if we really need to upgrade at some point during the season, like if we have to lose guys, the bullpen may be a place where we can go to, move a piece to get a piece, because we have such depth there on so many levels. Like, we could move a guy to a team that really needs it, because I think most teams in baseball would take any of our bullpen guys. There's very few bullpens out there that would not want even a Sean Armstrong. Like, I think there's just not a whole lot. Like he's just we have valuable pitchers everywhere. I think that's a position of strength where if we actually do need to make a trade at some point, that could be a place where the trade comes from.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have so much like proven major league talent in the bullpen. Even though I feel like we have like more pieces and depth in like the prospect rankings and like the middle infield kind of spot, like none of it's really proven. So those are all kind of like, pick your poison there. But the proven talent in the bullpen is phenomenal. And I'm so excited for this season. Like there's never really going to be a time where the Rays throw like an average major league pitcher out there. Like everybody does something that's really good and makes them, good in some kind of way. So not many teams can consistently throw out like a good pitcher when they're getting blown out. I mean, like if you're getting blown out, like somebody had a bad game, but like the guy coming in to do the mop up duty is going to be talented. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. I think that, that's something that we can rely on as a strength of this team. And I think that that's something that a lot of really good teams want to have, because that's to me, a strong bullpen is an element of a championship team. Like where you can go to your bullpen. If you're scared to go to your bullpen, you're gonna over pitch your starters. You're going to do things that are going to negatively affect your team. Having that strong bullpen, it just empowers the manager to make good decisions, and that leads to winning baseball.
It does. I mean, the Rays have had strong bullpens last year was a bit shaky because of injuries, but like they were still a strong bullpen. They pieced things together, and it's definitely part of their recipe for success. So I know this was a bit of a longer one, but I'm glad we dove into all the bullpen pieces here. And there are still more, like we kind of talked about Chirinos at the end, and there are guys in the minors that are going to pitch, and there might be some guys who aren't even on the roster right now who are going to get major league innings at some point. So it's just all exciting. They're all talented. I think this will probably be our last like official player review episode, because we're starting to get into more news. I know we've got arbitration hearings that should happen by the time our next episode comes. Oh no, sorry, they're not going to happen yet, but they'll be like, maybe starting to talk. So we might see some agreements coming up. Spring training is getting pretty close. We're a couple weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting. World Baseball Classics coming up. The dates are finally falling into place, so we don't have to do any like filler things. We're going to have a trivia show, our third one coming up eventually, maybe in the next couple of weeks. I just have to keep running out my questions and find our winner in the fan slot that we're going to throw in there to face off against some pretty smart Rays people. So I'm excited about all this stuff we have coming up. Any other like news or updates, anything like that I might have missed out on?
The only thing that like has been going around on Ray's Twitter is this like, is the Wander Franco versus Pena discussion, because on the Dominican because first of all, I'm pretty sure the Dominican Republic is going to win the WBC because their lineup is disgusting. Like it's insane. What they have on that team is just like, it's just bonkers. But like, there's been a lot of discourse about, who's better. Cause I believe like Pena's been put on the projected lineups. And I don't even know like who's coming up with these lineups. Like I guarantee the manager for whoever's I don't know who's managing that team, but I guarantee
it's Rodney. I think Rodney Linares. I'm pretty sure. I think he's got the Dominican team.
That's right. Yeah. That's super. And again, come on, and certainly he's not going to be putting his lineup out this early anyway, but like, it's a lot of nonsense that's being discussed on Twitter right now. I don't know anybody who's not an Astros homer who's being serious, who's saying that like every counting stat except for, I think home runs, Wander leads in every on all the underlying statistics favor Wander. Like this is not a debate, but it is become one. So it's just a bunch of nonsense on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Jeremy Pena is good. Like he's a good player, but like he's not Wander Franco. Like I would take Wander Franco every day of the week over Jeremy Pena. Like, I mean, if Wander's legs are not broken and his hammate's fine, like
Right.
Obviously, like Wander Franco, even with the injuries though, like Wander Franco has been playing injured for like, over the past 2 seasons, maybe like half of his playing time with like his hamstring stuff. So like, and recovering from the hamate surgery, and he still puts up better numbers than Jeremy Pena, who's like fully healthy and like chiseled out of stone. Like, come on, like it's Wander Franco every day. So
I think it's probably some like worlds, like, the fact that he just won the World Series, like I get it. Like, he like there's definitely that level. Did he win? I think he won the MVP of the World Series. Is that true?
I think so. Yeah.
So like I get it, but like, do you really like, come on. I mean, and maybe you could say that maybe people will say it's biased if Raul Linares starts Wander over Jeremy Pena, but I think that's just the correct decision. Like that's the correct decision to start Wander Franco.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I didn't have anything else. We already talked about pitchers, catchers reporting pretty soon. I think I talked about Camanero's 14th home run at the top of the show. It started like 4 hours ago. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much everything. Thank you guys. If you're still listening, you deserve 10% off a shirt. So definitely go treat yourself. But yeah, thank you all for listening, liking, following, sharing is the important thing. Share, subscribe. Give us reviews, give us money, give us feedback, make fun of us, but still share the podcast. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Go Rays. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Rays up. See you guys next week.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.